clock in. I got that NOLA tea for you. Baby, Coachella this year was not giving music festival. It was giving dust, drama, cancellation emails, public confusion, celebrity soft launches, random backlash, outrageous prices, and enough online mess to feed the internet for a damn week. And see, folks always act like Coachella is just cute outfits, flower crowns, and rich people pretending they like standing in dirt for 14 hours. But no, this year, the desert was deserting, the internet was spiraling, and every few hours another headline dropped that had people saying, "Now what the hell is going on over there?" So tonight, we are doing a full Coachella mess roundup. Not the boring version, not the watered-down best moments version. I'm talking viral moments, backlash moments, side-eye moments, history-making moments, and the kind of stories that had people reposting clips with captions like, "Oh, this is bad." And the gag is, some of the biggest stories weren't even about the music. They were about who got embarrassed, who got dragged, who got defended, who made history, and who reminded everybody that Coachella is really half concert, half social experiment. So let's get into this, because the first story, whew, it had the internet arguing, correcting, apologizing, and typing in all caps. Sabrina Carpenter came into Coachella as one of the festival's biggest names. This was her first headlining slot, and on paper, everything should have been a clean win. Big stage, huge crowd, celebrity cameos, a set built like a whole little Hollywood fantasy. We're talking appearances tied to names like Sam Elliott, Will Ferrell, Samuel L. Jackson, and Susan Sarandon. So from the jump, this was supposed to be a crown moment for her. But then, the moment happened. During her April 10th set, Sabrina was at the piano, getting ready to introduce "We Almost Broke Up Again Last Night," when a fan in the crowd made a celebratory cultural call. Sabrina first thought it was yodeling, then said, "I don't like it." And when the fan answered that it was part of their culture, the exchange got even messier, with Sabrina asking basically, "That's your culture?" and later saying, "This is weird." And baby, once that clip hit the internet, it was over. Because social media did what social media does best. Pause, repost, zoom in, explain, drag, debate. A lot of people online identified the call as a zadruta, a traditional Arabic expression of joy and celebration that's commonly heard at weddings, parties, and other big emotional moments. So now the conversation wasn't just, did Sabrina mishear something? It became, why are you calling somebody's cultural expression weird on a giant stage in front of everybody? Now, to be fair, some people did defend her and said she probably couldn't hear clearly, couldn't see the person, and was reacting in the moment. And Sabrina herself did apologize the next day on X, saying her reaction was pure confusion, sarcasm, and not ill-intended, and that she could have handled it better. She even said now she knows what a zagruta is and welcomes all cheers going forward. But baby, once the internet decides a clip is the clip of the weekend, your apology is not the end of the story. It's just Act 2. Because what made this go extra viral was the contrast. She had this huge, glamorous headliner moment, a beautifully staged set, all the famous cameos, all the prestige. But the thing everybody ran with was one awkward crowd interaction. That's Coachella in a nutshell. You can spend $1 million on the spectacle, and the internet will still make the weird 20-second moment the headline. And honestly, this story hits because it taps into a bigger internet nerve. People are tired of culture getting treated like a punchline by accident, and then having to be explained after the fact. So for a lot of folks, this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It felt like one of those moments where celebrity insulation makes somebody not realize how what they said is about to land. And that's why it kept moving, because it had everything the internet loves: a superstar, a viral clip, cultural context, defenders, critics, and a fast apology. That is a perfect storm. But that wasn't even the only Coachella story making people mad before folks got through their first frozen lemonade. Because while Sabrina was getting dragged on one side of the internet, Influencers were on another side of the internet crying into ring lights about something very different. They said the brands started canceling. Now this one. This is the kind of tea that makes me sit up straighter because it exposes what Coachella really is behind the pretty filters. A bunch of creators started speaking out after claiming their brand-sponsored Coachella trips were canceled right before the festival. According to reporting from People, creators including Glow Cortex, Yasmin Marziali, and Kelsey Kotzer said they were offered trips through brands or agencies, and then those offers were allegedly pulled before the festival actually started. And see, this is where the public fantasy and the business reality start fighting. From the outside, Coachella influencer content looks spontaneous. Like people just happened to wake up beautiful in a desert Airbnb wearing crochet and body shimmer. But the Los Angeles Times laid it out real plain. Behind the scenes, creators are doing spreadsheets, content calendars, sponsorship planning, ticket scrambling, and strategic posting weeks or even months in advance. So, when a brand pulls a trip last minute, it's not just, oh, I can't go have fun. That can mean your outfits were bought, your glam may have been booked, your travel was lined up, your content plans were built, your audience was already expecting the weekend coverage, and your whole little Coachella identity flex just got snatched. That is why people were reacting so hard, because it exposed the fake glamour pipeline. Coachella has always sold this dream that getting there means you made it. You're hot enough, relevant enough, sponsored enough, seen enough. So when creators started saying, actually, some of this is smoke and mirrors, and some of us are getting jerked around, the internet perked right up. And let's be honest, some folks online had zero sympathy. A lot of people were basically like, oh no, not the free influencer vacation. But others saw it for what it really was. Because whether people like influencers or not, if a company offers a deal and then yanks it at the last minute, that's messy. That's bad planning at best and exploitative as hell at worst. And what makes this such a strong Nia story is that it's not just celebrity gossip. It's about status, access, how people build image online, who gets invited in, and how fast aspirational can flip into embarrassing. Because baby, 1 minute you're posting Coachella prep. The next minute you're posting, so I guess I'm not going after all. That hurts different. And while some influencers were losing trips, somebody else said screw restraint and spent almost $200,000 on 3 days. Influencer Sophie Rain told People she spent close to $200,000 on her 3-day Coachella experience and defended the choice by saying she wanted to make the moment special because she didn't grow up rich enough to have experiences like that. Now listen, every year Coachella gives us one story that reminds us this is not just a festival. It's a class performance Olympics. $200,000 for 3 days is not festival spending. That is, I want my entire weekend to look like a luxury brand hallucination. And the internet reacted exactly how you think it did. Shock, anger, jokes, think pieces, and people calculating what that money could do in literally any other context. Because when regular folks are already complaining about ticket costs, travel costs, hotel costs, food costs, drinks costs, and survival costs, hearing that somebody dropped nearly 200 grand on one weekend feels insane. But here's why the story traveled. It wasn't just the number. It was what the number represented. Coachella is supposed to sell the illusion that everybody's having the same festival, just in different outfits. But stories like this rip that illusion wide open. Nah, baby. There are levels to this. Some people are budgeting for a locker and a lemonade. Some people are allegedly losing brand invites. And some people are building a fantasy experience with 6-figure spending, like they're filming season 5 of Rich Girl in the Desert. That gap right there, that's what keeps people watching, because it triggers envy, irritation, fascination, and judgment all at once. Folks don't even have to like the person to keep discussing it. That's why it goes viral. And speaking of money causing online arguments, let's get into the food prices, because people were looking at these menus like they had been personally disrespected. One of the most shared side discussions around Coachella this weekend was the cost of food and drinks. A report from Food Bible said online reactions split between people calling the prices criminal and other people weirdly defending them as not as bad as expected. Now, whether folks thought the prices were outrageous or normal for festivals, the point is this conversation took off because everybody already expects Coachella to be expensive. So every menu becomes a morality play. People aren't just looking at tacos and drinks, they're looking at what it costs to participate in the fantasy. And that matters because Coachella is already tied to all this talk of exclusivity, branding, influencer culture, luxury houses, curated parties, and premium access. So when people start seeing basic food and drink totals pile up on top of passes, outfits, lodging, and transportation, it becomes another piece of the bigger argument. Is this still a music festival? Or is this just a very expensive content set with speakers? That's why these price stories always do numbers online. It lets everybody project their own feelings onto the event. The people who dream of going say, "Damn, maybe I'll just watch the live stream." The people who hate influencer culture say, "Good, let them pay it." The people already there say, "Well, what y'all want me to do? Starve?" And it gets even funnier when you put that next to the story about canceled influencer trips and six-figure luxury spending. Because now Coachella starts looking like 3 different planets sharing one zip code. But as expensive as the place was, the desert still reminded everybody who runs that festival. And baby, that would be the wind. While all the glam content was flooding feeds, local reporting from KESQ said strong winds and blowing dust were creating real problems during weekend 1, disrupting performances and raising safety concerns on Friday night into day 2. This is one of those stories that sounds minor until you realize Coachella is built on illusion. The illusion is sunset, shimmer, perfect content, effortless cool. The reality is, your lashes are fighting for their life, your lums got notes, your hairline is stressed, and your cute little festival moment is getting slapped by dirt at 30 miles per hour. That contrast is funny every single year, but it always hits harder when people online are already side-eyeing the event. Because now even the people who paid crazy money are still getting humbled by weather. And I know some folks are like, well, duh, it's the desert. Exactly. That's part of why the story spreads. Coachella asks people to perform luxury in an environment that is actively disrespectful. That is comedy. That is irony. That is why dust clips and my body is shutting down content travels so damn well. And once weather starts beating people down, every other annoyance gets louder too. The lines feel worse, the prices feel worse, the walk feels worse. The whole experience starts sounding less like an exclusive paradise and more like expensive suffering with good lighting. But while regular people were fighting dust, one man hit the stage in a wheelchair and had people asking what in the hell kind of comeback timing this was. Offset showed up at Coachella in a wheelchair to perform just days after he was shot outside a Florida casino, according to People and other outlets covering the appearance. Now that is already a headline by itself. But the reason it got extra attention is because it feels like one of those "wait, already" moments. People are still processing the news around the shooting, still trying to understand the situation. And then suddenly here he is at Coachella, in the middle of one of the biggest culture weekends of the year, performing anyway. That creates instant debate. Some folks saw it as resilient, some saw it as reckless. Some saw it as very rap star, the show must go on. And some were just shocked by how fast the timeline moved. And let's keep it a buck. Coachella is not exactly where people expect recovery imagery. It's a place built for excess, spectacle, and fashion. So when somebody comes through in visible post-trauma mode, it slices through the polished fantasy immediately. That's why clips and write-ups about it moved. It felt jarring. like the outside world crashing right into festival culture. And in a weekend full of curated aesthetics, that moment felt raw as hell. But speaking of the festival trying to stay glossy, Justin Bieber got up there and did the exact opposite of what people expect from a shiny Coachella headline set. And somehow, that made the internet talk even more. Justin Bieber headlined on April 11th, and the reaction wasn't just, Justin did good. The conversation was bigger than that. People framed it as a career-spanning set with surprise guests like WizKid, Thames, The Kid Laroi, Dijon, and MKG, plus emotional family shout-outs to Haley and their son Jack Blues. He pulled songs from all over his catalog, from old hits to more recent material. But the Los Angeles Times piece is what really gives the tea its flavor, because they describe the show almost like an anti-traditional Coachella headliner moment, even joking about Bieber and his laptop, and praised it as a radical reframing of what a headlining set is supposed to be. At one point, he was even playing meme videos of himself, veering into weirdly self-aware territory. Now see, that's why the internet stayed on it. People expected one thing, giant desert pop god spectacle. Instead, what they got was something looser, stranger, more personal, more internet native, and honestly more chaotic in tone. That kind of set always splits a crowd. Half the people say, this is iconic because he's not performing like a robot. The other half say, why does this feel like famous karaoke with expensive lighting? And that tension is what makes it juicy. Then you add the softer family angle. Haley in the crowd, him singing to her, him referencing their son. That pushed another section of the internet into awe mode. So now the set wasn't just a music story. It was a relationship story, a comeback story, an image story, and an expectation versus reality story all at once. And baby, once a performance becomes 4 stories at the same time, that thing is built to live online. But while Justin was giving people a divisive headline set, Karol G came through and gave the festival something it should have done a long damn time ago. Karol G closed out Sunday night by becoming the first Latina to headline Coachella. That alone is major. But what made the moment hit even harder is that Karol herself basically said on stage that it was overdue. According to the Los Angeles Times, she said, "It feels late," and pointed out the festival had been going on for decades before this moment. Now that right there is why this story moved beyond "Congrats, Queen." Because when somebody makes history and then also calls out how delayed that history is, that turns the moment into a conversation. Suddenly the story isn't just Karol G wins, it's why did it take this damn long? That's when the internet starts doing what it always does, looking backward, naming the artists that should have been recognized sooner, debating representation, debating industry politics, debating gatekeeping, debating who gets centered in mainstream festival culture. And the set itself was described as huge, sensual, powerful, and deeply rooted in Latin music and culture, with guests like Becky G, Wisin, and even a Gloria Estefan cover in the mix. So this wasn't some token little historic moment slapped together for optics. This was a real statement set. That's why I'd absolutely keep Karol in the episode, even though her story is less messy and more triumphant. Because good tea isn't always scandal. Sometimes it's tension. Sometimes it's a victory that embarrasses the system for being late. And honestly, that line, "It feels late," says more than a whole press release. But Coachella wouldn't be Coachella without at least a few extra side story moments where the internet went, all right, now what the hell is this? Before the weekend even really settled in, Lizzo posted a video in a revealing black outfit and captioned it, "Coachella has begun." The look showed cutouts with visible hips and backside, and naturally, that set off the usual cycle of applause, shock, think pieces, and body commentary. Now, I'm not about to sit here and act fake surprise that Lizzo wore something bold. That's not the story. The story is that Lizzo knows exactly how to make a fashion moment become a conversation, and Coachella is the perfect place for that. because festival fashion online is never just fashion. It's identity warfare. People project all their little issues onto what women wear out there. Too much, not enough, too thirsty, too basic, too performative, too attention-seeking. Baby, the attention is the point. It's Coachella. So yes, this is a quick-hit side story, but it's worth mentioning because it fed the weekend's larger energy. Everybody was performing, and the internet was grading them in real time. And that leads perfectly into one of the most random, embarrassing side stories of the whole weekend. This one is quick but nasty work. A woman named Michelle Dang Lay went viral after realizing a wardrobe malfunction made it into the final cut of a Coachella commercial tied to the Do Lab stage. She posted about seeing herself in the ad while dancing in a knit crop top, and what appeared to be a nipple cover visibly slipping out made the final edit. She joked about it online, but baby, the second people clocked it, the clip spread. Now that story is small compared to the major headlines, but it belongs in a roundup like this because it's peak Coachella internet energy. You mean to tell me in all the editing, all the approvals, all the branding, all the aesthetic curation, nobody caught that? That is hilarious, also horrifying, also very on brand for a weekend where polish kept getting interrupted by chaos. That's why these smaller stories matter. They support the theme. And the theme this year was simple. Coachella wanted to look perfect. So, what really was the story of Coachella this year? Honestly, the story wasn't just the performances. It was the illusion getting tested. Sabrina gave headliner glamour, but one misunderstanding turned into a cultural backlash story. Influencers sold the fantasy, but behind the scenes, some were allegedly getting canceled on before they even touched the desert. Justin gave a major headline set, but did it in a way that made people argue about whether it was genius, lazy, intimate, or weirdly iconic. Karol G made history, but her very existence in that slot reminded everybody how overdue that history was. Festival goers paid luxury-level prices, but still had to battle dust, wind, and desert disrespect. And in the middle of all that, the side stories kept piling up. Wardrobe mishaps, shock value fashion, spending flexes, and celebrity chaos. That's why this weekend hits so hard online, because Coachella is never just about music anymore. It's about image, status, access, culture, clout. And who gets to control the narrative once the clips start moving faster than the official press? And baby, this year, the narrative got away from damn near everybody. But hey, that's just the tea. You ain't hear it from me.